The wind howled across the Montana plains like a wounded animal, cutting through Cole Dawson's worn leather coat as his horse picked its way along the narrow trail. February had come in cruel this year, bringing snow that buried fence posts and froze water troughs solid. Cole pulled his hat lower against the wind, his breath forming white clouds in the frozen air. He was 2 days' ride from his ranch, checking the winter grazing land he leased from the territory, when he heard it. At first, he thought it was a coyote, that high-pitched wail that made a man's blood run cold. But something about the sound made him pull his horse to a stop, his hand instinctively going to the rifle at his saddle. There it was again, not a coyote, something else. Cole urged his horse forward, following the sound around a cluster of boulders. What he found made him freeze in his saddle, his heart slamming against his ribs. A wagon overturned, the canvas torn and flapping in the wind, and from inside that wreckage, the unmistakable sound of a baby crying. He was off his horse in seconds, his boots crunching through the snow as he ran toward the wagon. His mind raced through possibilities. None of them good. Indians, outlaws. A simple accident in the treacherous mountain pass. The crying grew louder as he approached, desperate and raw. Cole's chest tightened. He'd heard plenty of sounds in his 38 years, seen things during the war that still haunted his sleep. But the sound of a baby crying from hunger and cold in the middle of nowhere hit him differently. He reached the wagon and peered inside, his eyes adjusting to the dim interior. There, wrapped in a bundle of blankets that had come loose, was an infant. Couldn't be more than a few months old. The baby's face was red from crying, tiny fists waving in the air. "Jesus," Cole breathed, looking around quickly. "Hello? Anyone here?" Silence answered him, except for the baby's wails. He searched the area around the wagon with growing dread. It didn't take long to find them. A man and woman, both frozen, half buried in snow about 20 yards from the wreck. From the looks of it, the wagon had gone over the edge during yesterday's storm. They'd tried to walk for help, but hadn't made it far. Cole removed his hat briefly. A moment of respect for the dead. Then he turned back to the wagon and the living child who needed him. "All right, little one," he said, reaching for the baby with hands that suddenly felt too large and clumsy. "I've got you now." The moment he lifted the child into his arms, the crying intensified. The baby was lighter than he expected and cold. Too cold. Cole quickly tucked the infant inside his coat, against his chest, using his body heat to warm the tiny body. "Shh, shh," he murmured. A sound he hadn't made in 5 years, not since his own daughter. He pushed the thought away. This wasn't the time. The baby was a girl, he realized, maybe 3 or 4 months old, and from the desperate way she rooted against his chest, she was starving. Cole's mind raced. He was 2 days from his ranch. The nearest town, Cedar Ridge, was 8 hours' ride north. This baby needed food now, needed warmth, needed care he had no idea how to provide. But there was someone in Cedar Ridge who might. Someone he'd been avoiding for months. Emma Hayes, the town's new schoolteacher, though that wasn't the only reason everyone knew her name. Emma had arrived in Cedar Ridge 6 months ago with a reputation that preceded her. Unwed mother, they whispered, sent away in shame, though no one had seen a baby with her. Cole had noticed her the first time he'd ridden into town after her arrival. Hard not to notice a woman like Emma. She wasn't beautiful in the conventional sense, not like the delicate ladies in their fancy dresses. Emma was substantial, curvy in a way that made a man's mouth go dry, tall for a woman, with auburn hair she wore in a practical bun, and eyes so green they reminded him of spring grass. He'd caught her staring at him once, outside the general store. Their eyes had met for just a moment before she'd looked away, a blush coloring her cheeks. Something about that blush had stuck with him for weeks. But more importantly, Emma had been nursing another woman's baby for the past month. Sarah Chen, the Chinese woman who ran the laundry, had taken ill after childbirth. Emma had stepped in without hesitation, feeding the infant until Sarah recovered. The whole town had talked about it. Some with admiration, others with barely concealed disapproval. A wet nurse, that's what the baby needed, and Emma was the only option within reach. Cole looked down at the infant tucked against his chest. The crying had quieted to whimpers now, but he could feel her tiny body trembling. He had to make a choice, and he had to make it now. He retrieved his saddlebag and found a piece of soft cloth, dipping it in his canteen. The baby sucked on it desperately, getting only drops of water, but it seemed to calm her slightly. It wouldn't be enough, wouldn't last. "Cedar Ridge it is, little girl," he said softly. "Hang on for me." He fashioned a sling from his spare shirt, tying the baby securely against his chest under his coat. She was so small, so fragile. He'd forgotten how breakable babies were. Mounting his horse one-handed was awkward, but he managed. As he turned north toward Cedar Ridge, the sun was already sinking toward the western peaks. He'd have to ride through the night. "Get up!" He urged his horse forward, one arm instinctively curling around the small bundle at his chest. Behind him, the overturned wagon disappeared into the gathering darkness. Ahead, 8 hours of frozen trail, and a woman he barely knew, who held this baby's life in her hands. The hours blurred together as Cole pushed through the night. The baby cried intermittently, weak mewling sounds that tore at something deep in his chest. He gave her the water-soaked cloth every hour, but it wasn't nearly enough. "Stay with me," he murmured into the darkness. Just a few more hours. His horse, a sturdy roan named Buck, seemed to sense the urgency, maintaining a steady pace even as the temperature dropped and ice formed on Cole's beard. They reached Cedar Ridge just as dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The town was still sleeping, smoke just beginning to rise from a few chimneys. Cole knew where the schoolhouse was. He'd ridden past it plenty of times, always glancing at the small cottage behind it where Emma lived. He'd wondered about her more than he cared to admit, wondered what would drive a woman to come to a place like Cedar Ridge, wondered if the rumors were true, wondered if those green eyes ever looked at him the way he'd caught himself looking at her. He pulled his horse to a stop outside her cottage and dismounted carefully, the baby still tucked against his chest. She'd gone quiet in the last hour, which worried him more than the crying had. Cole walked up to the door and knocked hard. Nothing. He knocked again, louder this time. "Miss Hayes! Emma, I need your help!" He heard movement inside. A moment later, the door opened a crack, and there she was. Emma Hayes in her nightdress and robe, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders, eyes wide with confusion and alarm. Even half asleep and startled, she was beautiful. The curves he'd only glimpsed through her modest dresses were fuller than he'd imagined, and he forced his eyes to her face. "Mr. Dawson, what in heaven's name?" "I need your help," Cole said, his voice rough from the cold and hours of silence. "I found a baby. She's starving. I heard that you've been nursing Sarah Chen's child." Understanding dawned in Emma's eyes, followed immediately by concern. "How long has she been without food?" "Don't know. At least a day, maybe more. Her parents are dead. Wagon accident up in the pass." Emma's hand flew to her mouth. Then, without another word, she stepped aside. "Bring her in. Quickly." Cole entered the small cottage, hit immediately by the warmth from the wood stove. The interior was simple but clean, homey in a way his ranch house hadn't been in years. Emma was already moving, lighting lamps, stoking the fire. "Let me see her," Emma said, turning to him. Cole carefully unwrapped the baby from his makeshift sling, his large hands gentle despite their trembling. Whether from cold or exhaustion or fear, he didn't know. Emma took the infant from him, and Cole felt the loss immediately. The weight of that small body against his chest had become familiar in the long night's ride. "Oh, you poor darling," Emma cooed, examining the baby with practiced efficiency. "She's freezing. How long were you riding?" 8 hours. Gave her water when I could, but you did right by bringing her here." Emma glanced up at him, and their eyes met. Something passed between them, an understanding. A connection. "She's very weak. I'll need to warm her slowly before I try to feed her." She moved to the chair by the fire, cradling the baby close. Cole watched, transfixed, as Emma opened her robe and nightdress without a hint of shame or hesitation. Professional, focused entirely on the child's needs. But Cole was only human, and the sight of Emma's full breast, the baby beginning to root and then latch desperately, hit him like a physical blow. He turned away quickly, heat flooding his face despite the cold that still clung to his bones. "You can look, Mr. Dawson," Emma said softly. "There's nothing shameful in feeding a hungry child." "I know that," Cole said, his voice gruffer than he intended. "Just been a long time since I've been around a woman. Any woman, let alone..." He heard her soft intake of breath. When he glanced back, carefully keeping his eyes on her face, he saw understanding there, and something else. Curiosity, maybe. "You can warm yourself by the fire," Emma said. "There's coffee on the stove. Help yourself." Cole did, grateful for something to do with his hands. The baby's desperate suckling sounds filled the room, gradually slowing as she drank her fill. "She's taking it well," Emma said after a few minutes. "That's good, means she's strong. Her parents weren't so lucky. You said they died in a wagon accident." Cole nodded, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. "Found them frozen about 20 yards from the wreck. Looks like they tried to walk out but didn't make it. Storm must have caught them yesterday." "Dear God," Emma's voice was thick with emotion. "That poor couple, and this little one, orphaned so young. What happens to her now?" Cole asked, finally settling into the chair across from Emma. He was careful to keep his eyes above her shoulders, though his peripheral vision was doing its damnedest to betray him. "I don't know," Emma admitted. "I suppose the territorial marshal will need to be notified. They'll try to find family. If there's none, orphanage," Cole finished grimly. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sounds the crackling fire and the baby's contented nursing. "How long can you feed her?" Cole asked. Emma's cheeks colored slightly. "I'm still nursing Sarah's baby, little Michael. He's with Sarah now. She's recovered enough, but my body still produces milk. I can feed this little girl as long as needed." "That's generous of you." "It's the right thing to do." Emma looked down at the baby, and her expression softened in a way that made Cole's chest ache. "Every child deserves to be fed, to be cared for." There was a story there, Cole thought. Something in the way she said it, the pain that flickered across her face. "The town talks about you," he said, then immediately wished he could take it back. "I'm sorry, that was rude." But Emma just smiled, a sad sort of smile. "I know what they say. Unwed mother, woman of loose morals, sent away in disgrace. Is it true?" The question hung in the air between them. Emma looked at him for a long moment, and Cole saw her weighing whether to answer, whether to trust this stranger who'd appeared on her doorstep at dawn with a dying baby. "Yes and no," she finally said. "I was with child, but the baby, she was born too early, lived only 3 hours." The pain in her voice was raw, fresh, despite whatever time had passed. Cole knew that kind of pain, knew it intimately. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. "Thank you." Emma adjusted the baby, switching her to the other breast with an efficiency that spoke of practice. "My family sent me away before I started showing, said I'd shamed them. The father of my child." Her voice hardened. "He was already married. I didn't know until it was too late." Cole's hands tightened on his coffee mug. "Bastard." "Yes," Emma agreed simply. "So I came here, to start over, to be somewhere no one knew me. But of course the rumors followed. You could have lied, told people you were a widow." "I could have," Emma acknowledged. "But I'm tired of lies. I'd rather be judged for the truth than praised for a falsehood." There was strength in that, Cole thought, a kind of courage he recognized. "People are going to talk even more now," he said, "when they find out you're nursing another baby. Let them talk." Emma looked up at him, and her green eyes flashed with defiance. "This child needs me. That's all that matters." The baby had fallen asleep at her breast, milk drunk and peaceful. Emma gently extracted her nipple and covered herself, then stood to place the infant in a basket by the fire. She moved with a grace that belied her size, comfortable in her own skin, in a way that fascinated Cole. "You should rest," Emma said, turning to him. "You look exhausted. I need to report the accident." "The bodies need to be recovered. That can wait a few hours." "When was the last time you slept?" Cole tried to remember. 2 days ago, I think." "Then you'll rest here. I have a spare bed in the back room. It's small, but I can't impose." "Mr. Dawson," Emma's voice was firm, "you rode through the night in freezing temperatures to save this child's life. The least I can do is offer you a bed for a few hours." Their eyes met, and Cole felt it again, that pull, that connection. "Cole," he said. "Call me Cole." "Cole," she repeated, and he liked the way his name sounded in her voice. "I'm Emma." "I know." Something in his tone made her blush again, and damn if that wasn't the prettiest thing he'd seen in years. "The bed is through there," Emma said, gesturing to a door. "I'll wake you in a few hours." Cole stood, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Emma was tall for a woman, the top of her head reaching his shoulder. He was a big man, 6'4" and broad, and he'd spent years making himself seem smaller, less threatening. But Emma didn't look afraid of him. She looked interested. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for helping, for not asking questions." "We all have our reasons for being here," Emma replied. "For starting over. I understand that better than most." Cole nodded and moved toward the back room. At the doorway he paused and looked back. Emma was bending over the basket, adjusting the blanket around the sleeping baby, and the sight struck him with unexpected force. This is what his house had looked like once, before the fever took his wife and daughter, before the silence became unbearable. He pushed the memory away and entered the small bedroom. The bed was indeed small, but it was clean and the quilts looked warm. Cole removed his boots and coat, but kept the rest of his clothes on. He was asleep within seconds of his head hitting the pillow. He woke to the smell of cooking and the sound of a baby crying. For a moment, he was disoriented, caught between past and present. Then reality settled in, and he sat up quickly. The sun was higher now, streaming through the small window. He'd slept longer than intended. Cole pulled on his boots and went back to the main room. Emma was at the stove, cooking eggs while simultaneously bouncing the baby against her shoulder. She dressed in her usual modest attire, a dark blue dress that somehow made her eyes even greener. "I'm sorry," Emma said when she saw him. "I tried to keep her quiet, but she's hungry again. Don't apologize." Cole watched as Emma settled into the chair and began nursing again, this time with a shawl draped over her shoulder for modesty. "How long did I sleep?" "3 hours. You needed more, but I thought you'd want to get to the marshal before the day got much later." She'd made enough breakfast for 2, he noticed. The thoughtfulness of it touched him. "Have you eaten?" he asked. "Not yet. Hard to cook and nurse at the same time." "Let me." Cole moved to the stove and began plating the food. "You fed the baby. Least I can do is feed you." He brought her a plate and their fingers brushed as she took it. The contact sent a jolt through him, and from the way Emma's eyes widened, she felt it too. "Thank you," she said softly. They ate in companionable silence, the baby making small, contented sounds as she nursed. "I've been thinking about what to do," Emma said after a while. "About the baby, I mean. And the marshal will want to send her to the territorial orphanage in Helena. It's overcrowded, underfunded. Children don't thrive there." Cole knew she was right. He'd seen the Helena orphanage once, years ago. The memory still turned his stomach. "What are you suggesting?" Emma took a deep breath. "I could keep her. Temporarily at least, until family is found or until a proper home can be arranged. The town will talk, yes, but they already talk about me. What's one more scandal?" Her chin lifted in that defiant way he was beginning to recognize. "Besides, I'm already feeding her. It makes sense for her to stay with me." Cole studied her face, seeing the determination there, but also the longing, the need. "You want this," he said quietly, "not just for the baby's sake." Emma met his eyes. "Is that selfish of me, to want something good to come from everything I've lost?" "No," Cole said firmly. "It's human." The baby had finished eating and was drowsing against Emma's chest. Cole stood and moved to take her, giving Emma a chance to eat properly. The infant settled against him easily, her tiny hand curling around his finger. "She trusts you," Emma observed. "That's rare. Babies usually know." "Know what?" "Whether someone is safe. You have gentle hands for such a big man." Cole looked down at those hands, scarred and calloused from years of hard work. Hands that had held a rifle during the war. Hands that had buried his wife and daughter. "I wasn't always this gentle," he said quietly. "None of us are who we used to be," Emma replied. "We're who we choose to become." The wisdom in that struck him. He'd spent 5 years running from who he'd been, trying to outwork the memories. But Emma was right. You couldn't outrun the past. You could only choose what to do with it. "I'll support your request to keep the baby," Cole said. "If you want it, tell the marshal she needs to stay with you for health reasons, that moving her would be dangerous." "You'd do that?" "I would." He looked at her steadily. "You're right about the orphanage. This little one deserves better." Emma's eyes shone with unshed tears. "Thank you, Cole." The way she said his name did things to his insides, made him feel things he hadn't felt in years, want things he'd thought he'd buried with his wife. He cleared his throat. "I should go see the marshal. Report the accident." "Yes, of course." Emma stood and took the baby from him. Their bodies were close enough that he could smell her. Lavender and milk and something uniquely Emma. "Will you come back?" she asked. "After you speak to the marshal, I'd like to know what he says." "I'll come back," Cole promised. He gathered his coat and hat, very aware of Emma watching him. At the door, he paused. "Emma?" "Yes?" "What you said earlier, about starting over, about choosing who to become." He turned to look at her. "I think maybe I'd like to try that too." Her smile was like sunrise. "I think you already have, Cole. You just didn't realize it yet." The marshal's office was at the far end of Cedar Ridge's main street. Cole tied Buck outside and steeled himself for what was coming. Marshal Tom Brennan was a fair man, but a stickler for procedure. This wasn't going to be easy. "Dawson," Brennan greeted him when Cole entered. "Wasn't expecting to see you in town. Everything all right at the ranch?" "Found a wagon accident up in the mountain pass," Cole said without preamble. "Couple dead, frozen. Baby survived." Brennan sat up straight. "Jesus, when?" "Last night. Found them around sunset. Baby was nearly frozen, starving. I brought her to Miss Hayes." Understanding flickered in Brennan's eyes. "The school teacher. She's been nursing Sarah Chen's baby. Seemed like the best option. And the parents? Still up there. Need a party to go recover the bodies. See if there's identification." Brennan nodded, already reaching for paper and pen. "I'll organize that today. You able to guide us?" "Yes." "And the baby? What's to be done with her?" This was the moment. Cole chose his words carefully. "Miss Hayes has offered to keep the child temporarily. She's already feeding her, and moving the baby now could be dangerous. She's weak. The orphanage in Helena is overcrowded and underfunded," Cole interrupted. "We both know that. The baby is being cared for. Let her stay with Miss Hayes until family can be found or better arrangements made." Brennan studied him for a long moment. "People will talk. People always talk. Doesn't change what's right." "You defending Emma Hayes' honor, Dawson. That's interesting, considering you barely know the woman." Cole met the marshal's gaze steadily. "I know enough. She's a good person doing a kind thing. That's all that matters." Something in his tone must have convinced Brennan, because the marshal nodded. "All right, I'll file the paperwork. Baby stays with Miss Hayes, temporary guardianship until we know more. But Dawson..." "Yeah? If you're going to keep visiting the school teacher, be discreet. Her reputation's already rocky." Cole felt heat rise up his neck. "I'm just making sure the baby's all right." "Sure you are." Brennan's smile was knowing. "Meet me back here at noon. We'll ride up to recover the bodies." Cole left the marshal's office feeling unsettled. Was he being obvious? He'd only met Emma properly this morning, and yet already he was thinking about her in ways he shouldn't, ways he hadn't thought about a woman since Mary died. But Emma wasn't Mary. Mary had been delicate, refined, the daughter of a Philadelphia merchant who'd somehow ended up married to a soldier. Emma was different, stronger, more substantial in every sense of the word. He found himself walking back to her cottage without consciously deciding to. Emma answered his knock almost immediately, the baby asleep in a sling across her chest. That was quick. "Marshal wants to ride up to recover the bodies. We leave at noon." Cole hesitated. "He agreed to let you keep the baby. Temporary guardianship until we know more." Emma's face lit up. "Truly? Oh, Cole, thank you. It was your idea. But you supported it. That means something here. You're respected." Cole shifted uncomfortably. "I'm tolerated. Different thing." "No, I've seen how people look at you. With respect." Emma stepped back. "Would you like to come in? I just made fresh coffee." He should say no. Should keep things professional. But instead he found himself saying, "Just for a minute." They settled at her small kitchen table, the baby still sleeping peacefully against Emma's chest. Cole found his eyes drawn to her constantly, cataloguing details, the way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the fullness of her bottom lip, the way her dress pulled tight across her generous curves when she leaned forward. "You're staring," Emma said softly. "Sorry." But he didn't look away. "I'm not used to it. Men don't usually..." She gestured vaguely at herself. "I'm not what they expect. Maybe they're expecting the wrong things." The air between them felt charged. Emma's cheeks flushed pink. "Cole, I should tell you something about why I really came to Cedar Ridge. You don't owe me explanations. I want to tell you." She took a breath. "After I lost my baby, I had nowhere to go. My family wouldn't take me back. The man who'd gotten me with child wanted nothing to do with me. I felt empty, like I'd failed at the one thing women are supposed to be good at." Cole's chest tightened. "You didn't fail. Logically, I know that. But my heart felt differently." She looked down at the sleeping baby. "When I heard about the position here, teaching in a frontier town, I jumped at it. I thought maybe starting completely over, where no one knew me, I could find a way to forgive myself. And have you?" "I'm trying, and caring for this little one." Her voice caught. "It helps. Feeding her, holding her, it makes me feel like maybe I can do some good, even if I couldn't save my own daughter." Cole understood that need, that desperate hunger to make meaning from loss. He'd felt it every day for 5 years. "What was her name?" he asked quietly. "Your daughter." "Rose. She was so tiny, so perfect. Just not strong enough." "I had a daughter too," Cole said. The words came out rough, unexpected. He hadn't talked about this in years. Her name was Lily. She was 4 when the fever took her. Emma's hand reached across the table, covering his. Her fingers were warm, soft. "I'm so sorry. My wife Mary died the same night. Same fever. I couldn't save either of them." He looked at their joined hands. "For a long time, I wished the fever had taken me too. But you're still here." "Yeah, still here." He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. "Some days that feels like punishment. Other days I think maybe there's a reason I survived. Just haven't figured out what it is yet." They sat in silence, hands joined, 2 wounded souls finding unexpected comfort in each other's pain. The baby stirred, making a small sound. Emma gently extracted her hand to adjust the sling. Cole immediately missed her touch. "I should go," he said, standing. "Need to meet the marshal. Be careful up there. The pass can be treacherous." "I will." At the door he paused. "Emma, would it be all right if I came back? After we recover the bodies? Just to check on the baby." The way Emma smiled told him she knew he wasn't just checking on the baby. "I'd like that," she said. "Very much." The ride up to the pass was grim work. Cole led Marshal Brennan and 2 deputies to the site, where they found everything just as he'd left it. The couple had been young, probably not much past 20. They found papers in the wagon identifying them as Robert and Catherine Miller, homesteaders heading to Montana Territory from Oregon. "No mention of family," Brennan said, rifling through their belongings. "Looks like they were on their own." They loaded the bodies onto the spare horses and searched the wagon for anything worth saving. There wasn't much. Some clothes, a few books, a wooden box containing what looked like wedding mementos. "What about the baby's things?" Cole asked. "Pack what you can carry. The rest will have to stay until we can send someone back with a wagon." Cole gathered the baby's clothes, blankets, and a small wooden rattle. At the bottom of a trunk, he found a Bible with an inscription, "To Catherine, on the occasion of our marriage. May God bless our union and the family we build together. Forever yours, Robert." His throat tightened. They'd been so young, so full of hope, and now their daughter was an orphan. "You all right, Dawson?" Brennan asked. "Yeah, just thinking about that little girl. She'll never know them. That's the way of things sometimes. At least she's alive." Cole carefully packed the Bible along with the baby's things. There were letters too, he discovered. Letters from Catherine's sister back in Oregon, talking about the journey west, about new beginnings. The last one was dated 3 months ago. "Found some correspondence," Cole said, handing them to Brennan. "Might help locate family." Brennan scanned the letters quickly. "Sister's name is Margaret Howell, lives in Portland. I'll send a telegram once we get back." The thought of hope being taken away, sent to strangers across the country, made Cole's chest tighten in a way he didn't fully understand. He'd known the baby less than 24 hours, and yet the idea of her leaving felt wrong. As they worked to secure the wagon's contents, one of the deputies called out, "Marshal, found something else." It was a journal, Catherine's journal. Cole opened it carefully, his eyes scanning the neat handwriting. "March 15th, 1876. Robert and I are married today. I am the happiest woman alive. We leave for Montana Territory next month. A new life awaits us, and I cannot wait to see what God has in store. May 3rd, 1876. I believe I am with child. I have not told Robert yet. I want to be certain before I give him such wonderful news. June 12th, 1876. Robert knows about the baby now. He cried when I told him. He has already started carving a rattle for our little one. Says whether it's a boy or girl, they'll have something made by their papa's hands." Cole's vision blurred. He closed the journal quickly, unable to read more. "You don't have to read that," Brennan said quietly. "It's private. Someone should know their story," Cole said. "Someone should remember them." He tucked the journal carefully into his saddlebag. Maybe someday, when Hope was old enough, she'd want to know about the parents who'd loved her, about the father who'd carved her rattle with such care, about the mother who'd dreamed of their new life together. The ride back to Cedar Ridge was silent, each man lost in his own thoughts. Cole couldn't stop thinking about Emma, about how she'd looked this morning with the baby in her arms, about the way her eyes had met his when he'd promised to come back. He was 40 minutes from town when he realized he was urging Buck faster, impatient to return, impatient to see her again. They made it back to Cedar Ridge as the sun was setting. The bodies were taken to the undertaker, and Brennan promised to send out inquiries about possible relatives. Cole should have gone back to his ranch. He had work waiting, stock to check, repairs to make. Instead, he found himself riding to Emma's cottage as twilight settled over the town. She opened the door before he could knock, the baby in her arms. "I saw you riding up," Emma said. "Come in. You must be frozen." The cottage felt like sanctuary after the grim work of the afternoon. Warm, safe, alive. "How was it?" Emma asked as Cole shed his coat. "About as you'd expect. Found their identification. Robert and Catherine Miller. No mention of other family, so she's truly alone. Seems like it." Cole watched as Emma settled into her chair to nurse the baby. "Found some of her things. Thought you might want them." He handed over the small bundle. Emma's eyes widened when she saw the wooden rattle. "Oh, how sweet. Look at this craftsmanship. Her father must have made it." "Probably." They were quiet for a moment, both thinking about the love that had gone into carving that toy, and how it was all the baby had left of her father. "Have you thought about a name?" Cole asked. "I can't name her. She has parents, even if they're gone. They might have called her something. There was nothing in their papers, no birth record." Emma looked down at the nursing infant. "Then I suppose, until we know better, I could call her Hope, because that's what she is. Hope that survived when everything else was lost." "Hope," Cole repeated. "I like that." He stayed for dinner, though he told himself he shouldn't. Emma made a simple stew, and they ate together like it was the most natural thing in the world, like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. "Tell me about your ranch," Emma said. "I've heard it's one of the largest in the territory." "It's big. Maybe too big for one man." Cole stared into his coffee. "Been running it alone since Mary died. Hired men for the heavy work, but I do most of it myself. That's a lot of alone time. I thought I wanted that. Thought I needed the space to, I don't know, figure things out." "And did you? Figure things out?" Cole looked at her, really looked at her. At this woman who'd opened her door and her heart to a stranger and a starving baby, who'd shared her pain with him without hesitation, who made him want things he'd thought were dead and buried. "I'm starting to," he said quietly. The air between them felt heavy with unspoken words. Emma's cheeks flushed, and she looked away first. "It's getting late," she said. "You should probably—" "Yeah." Cole stood, suddenly awkward. Would it be all right if I came back tomorrow? Brought some supplies for the baby." "You don't have to do that." "I want to." Emma walked him to the door. In the dim light, she looked softer somehow, vulnerable. "Cole," her voice was barely above a whisper. "Thank you for everything." He reached out, unable to stop himself, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek, and he felt her shiver. "Sleep well, Emma." "You too." He forced himself to walk away, though every instinct screamed at him to stay, to pull her into his arms and kiss her until neither of them could breathe. But it was too soon, too fast. She deserved better than a broken-down rancher with more ghosts than future. Cole rode back to his ranch under a blanket of stars, his mind full of green eyes and auburn hair and the sound of a baby's contented sighs. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of new routines and unexpected joy. Cole found reasons to ride into Cedar Ridge 3 or 4 times a week, bringing supplies for the baby, checking on Emma, making sure they had enough firewood. The first time he'd brought supplies, Emma had tried to refuse them. "I can't accept all this," she'd said, looking at the pile of baby clothes, blankets, and food he'd brought. "It's too much." "Hope needs them," Cole had replied simply. "And I have more money than sense, according to most folks." "Still, Emma." He'd looked at her steadily. "Let me help, please." And she had. After that, it became easier. Cole would arrive with supplies and Emma would make him coffee. They'd talk while Hope played or slept. Sometimes Cole would fix things around the cottage, a loose floorboard, a sticky window, the wood pile that needed restacking. "You don't have to do all this," Emma would say. "I know," Cole would reply. And he'd keep working. The town noticed, of course. People talked. Mrs. Henderson from the Mercantile made pointed comments about proper behavior. Reverend Walsh gave a sermon about maintaining appearances, but Cole didn't care, and Emma seemed to have made her peace with being the subject of gossip. "They talk no matter what I do," she'd told Cole one afternoon. "Might as well give them something real to talk about." Hope thrived under Emma's care, growing plump and happy. Cole watched in wonder as the tiny near-death infant he'd found transformed into a smiling, cooing baby who reached for him whenever he appeared. One afternoon in late March, Cole arrived to find Emma teaching Hope to reach for a cloth doll. The baby was on her stomach on a blanket, her chubby arms stretching toward the toy. "Come on, sweetheart," Emma coaxed. "You can do it." Hope made a determined sound and lunged forward, grabbing the doll. Both Cole and Emma laughed. "She's strong," Cole observed, settling on the floor beside them. Got fight in her. She gets it from her papa, Emma said, then blushed. I mean, from you. From the man who saved her. Cole reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Emma's ear, a gesture that was becoming familiar. I like it when you call me her papa. Do you? Emma's voice was soft. Yeah, I do. Their eyes met, and Cole saw longing there. Need. Want. He suspected his own eyes showed the same. Emma, I need to tell you something. What is it? I think about you all the time. When I'm at the ranch, I'm counting the hours until I can ride back here. When I'm here, I don't want to leave. You and Hope, you've become everything to me. Emma's hand found his. Cole, I feel the same way, but I'm scared. Of what? Of this being too good to be true. Of waking up and finding out it was all a dream. Of you realizing that you could have any woman you want, and I'm not. You're everything I want. Cole interrupted, and I'm going to keep telling you that until you believe it. Hope chose that moment to let out an indignant cry, dropping her doll. They both laughed, the tension breaking. Someone's hungry, Emma said, reaching for the baby. Cole watched as Emma settled into her chair to nurse Hope. He'd gotten used to it by now, the easy intimacy of watching her feed the baby. Emma no longer blushed or turned away. There was a comfort between them, a rightness that made Cole's chest ache with wanting. Tell me about your day, Emma said. What did you do at the ranch? Moved the cattle to the south pasture. Started repairs on the barn. Thought about you, Emma smiled. You can't spend all day thinking about me. You'd never get any work done. Who says I got any work done? They fell into easy conversation, as they always did. Cole told her about the new foal that had been born, how he'd found a family of foxes denning near the creek. Emma shared stories about her students, about how little Timmy Sullivan had finally learned to read. You're good with children, Cole observed. Natural at it. I love teaching, love seeing them learn and grow. Emma looked down at Hope. And I love this. Taking care of her, being a mother, even if it's just temporary. It doesn't have to be temporary. The words hung in the air between them. Emma's breathing quickened. What are you saying? I'm saying that I love you, that I want you to be my wife, that I want us to raise Hope together as our daughter. Cole moved to kneel beside her chair. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but Emma, I'm too old and too tired to play games. I know what I want. And I want you. Tears streamed down Emma's face. I want that too. So much. But Cole, what if I can't have more children? What if I'm broken? You're not broken. And if Hope is the only child we ever have, then we'll be blessed beyond measure. He cupped her face gently. Say yes, Emma. Make me the happiest man alive. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, mindful of the baby between them. When they broke apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. Hope had fallen asleep at Emma's breast, milk-drunk and content. Emma gently moved her to the basket, then turned back to Cole. I can't believe this is real, she said. It's real. Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her close. You're mine, and I'm yours, and we're going to be a family. They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, while the fire crackled and the sun set outside the window. Two broken people, made whole by finding each other. The next few weeks were a flurry of preparation. Emma wanted a simple wedding, and Cole agreed. They set the date for the first Saturday in April, giving them just over a week to prepare. Cole rode to his ranch to gather his things and tell his hired hands he'd be bringing a wife home. About damn time, his foreman, Jack Morrison, said with a grin. Thought you were going to die a lonely old bachelor. So did I, Cole admitted. He spent 2 days cleaning the ranch house from top to bottom, trying to see it through Emma's eyes. It was sparse, he realized. Functional but not welcoming. No curtains on the windows, no rugs on the floors. It looked like what it was. A place where a man existed but didn't really live. He made a list of things to buy in town. Curtains, rugs, new dishes, a proper bed for Hope. He wanted Emma to feel at home here. Wanted her to know this was her house now too. Back in Cedar Ridge, Emma was facing her own preparations and her own fears. What if I can't be the wife he needs? She confided to Sarah Chen one afternoon, while the two women sewed together. What if I'm not enough? Sarah, who'd become a good friend over the past months, shook her head firmly. You are more than enough. The way that man looks at you, Emma, like you're the sun and moon and stars all together. I just want to make him happy. You already do. Anyone can see that. She knows you, Emma said one afternoon, as Cole bounced Hope on his knee. You're her savior. You're the one feeding her, keeping her alive. We're both caring for her, Emma corrected. Whether we planned it or not, it was true. Somewhere along the way, they'd fallen into a pattern. Cole would arrive, and Emma would hand him the baby while she cooked or cleaned. They'd eat together, talking about everything and nothing. Cole told her about his ranch, his dreams of expanding the herd. Emma shared her love of teaching, her frustration with the lack of books. And slowly, carefully, they shared deeper things. The texture of their grief, their fears, their hopes for a future that felt more possible with each passing day. "Stay for supper," became Emma's regular refrain. "If you're sure," was Cole's regular response, even though they both knew he'd stay. One evening, about a month after finding Hope, Cole arrived to find Emma in tears. She was holding the baby, who was screaming, her tiny face red with distress. "What's wrong?" Cole asked, immediately alarmed. "I don't know," Emma said, her voice breaking. "She won't stop crying. I've fed her, changed her, walked with her. Nothing helps. What if something's wrong? What if she's sick?" Cole took Hope gently from Emma's arms. The baby was hot, he realized. Too hot. "She's got a fever," he said, trying to keep his voice calm even as his heart raced. The memories crashed over him. Lily, burning up with fever. Mary, pale and sweating. The helplessness. "We need the doctor," Emma said. "I'll get him. You stay with her. Keep her cool but not cold. Lukewarm water on her forehead." Cole rode like demons were chasing him to Doc Harrison's house. The old physician took one look at his face and grabbed his bag. "It's the baby you found," Doc said as they rode back. "What are the symptoms? Fever? Crying?" Emma's tried everything. They burst into the cottage to find Emma sponging Hope down, singing softly through her tears. Doc Harrison examined the baby thoroughly, while Cole paced like a caged animal. Finally the doctor straightened. "It's just a cold, common in babies her age, especially in winter. The fever's breaking already." "She's not—" Cole couldn't finish the sentence. "She's going to be fine," Doc assured him. "Keep her comfortable, plenty of fluids. The fever should be gone by morning." After the doctor left, Cole stood at the window, shaking. Emma settled Hope back in her basket and came to stand beside him. "Cole, are you all right?" "It's just—" His voice cracked. "Lily had a fever. That's how it started. And I couldn't save her." "Oh, Cole." Emma's hand found his. "This isn't then. Hope is going to be fine. You don't know that. None of us know that. Life can just take the people we love, without warning. Without mercy." Emma turned him to face her, her hands on his chest. "You're right. We can't control what happens, but we can choose to love anyway, to risk our hearts anyway, because the alternative is not living at all." "I'm scared," he admitted, the words torn from somewhere deep. "I'm scared of caring about her, about you, of losing again." "I'm scared too," Emma said softly. "Terrified, actually. But Cole, I'd rather be terrified and alive than numb and safe." They stood there, close enough that he could feel her warmth, her breath, the rapid beat of her heart. "Emma," he breathed, "what do you want?" "You. This. A second chance at the family I lost." Her eyes searched his face. "Are you sure? I'm not like your wife. I'm not delicate or refined. I'm just—" He kissed her. Finally, after weeks of wanting, he closed the distance between them and claimed her mouth with his. Emma made a small sound of surprise, then melted against him. She was soft and warm and perfect. Her curves pressed against his chest, and Cole wrapped his arms around her, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma's eyes were bright. "I've wanted you to do that for weeks," she admitted. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because I didn't think a man like you could want a woman like me." Cole cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Emma, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And I don't mean just your face, though that's lovely too. I mean all of you, your strength, your kindness. The way you love that baby like she's your own. The way you make me feel alive again." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I love you. I know it's too soon. And I know I shouldn't say it, but I do. I love you. It's not too soon." He kissed her again, softer this time. "I love you too. Think I started falling the moment I saw you in that nightdress with your hair down, taking Hope without hesitation." Emma laughed through her tears. "I was a mess. You were perfect." They held each other as the fire crackled, and Hope slept peacefully, her fever already fading. Outside, snow began to fall, blanketing Cedar Ridge in white. "Stay tonight," Emma whispered, "just to watch over Hope. Make sure her fever doesn't come back." They both knew that wasn't the only reason. Cole nodded. "I'll sleep in the chair." "Cole, I'll sleep in the chair, he repeated firmly. When I share your bed, Emma Hayes, it won't be because a baby's sick. It'll be because you're my wife. Emma's breath caught. Your wife? If you'll have me. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but I'm 38 years old. I know what I want, and I want you. You and Hope. A family. A real one. Yes, Emma said without hesitation. Yes, I'll marry you. He kissed her again, deeply, pouring everything he felt into it. Emma responded with equal passion, her hands fisting in his shirt. Soon, Cole promised when they broke apart. We'll marry soon. Very soon, Emma agreed. That night, Cole kept his word and slept in the chair, though every part of him ached to climb into Emma's bed. But he'd do this right, would honor her properly. Hope's fever broke completely by morning, just as Doc Harrison had predicted. Cole found Emma nursing her when he woke, and the sight of his future wife feeding their future daughter filled him with such joy he could barely breathe. Morning, Emma said softly. Morning. He stood and stretched, his back protesting the night in the chair. How is she? Perfect, happy, hungry. Emma smiled up at him. Did you mean it, what you said last night? Every word. Then we should probably discuss practical matters, like where we'll live. Cole settled at the table. The ranch. It's big, plenty of room. I know it's isolated, but I don't mind isolated as long as I'm with you. Emma hesitated. But I do love teaching. The children here need me. Then keep teaching. I'll bring you to town 3 days a week. The rest of the time you can be at the ranch with me and Hope. You've thought about this. I've thought about little else for weeks. Emma finished nursing Hope and handed her to Cole. The baby smiled up at him and his heart clenched. His daughter, not by blood, but by choice, by love. When? Emma asked. How about next week? Give you time to prepare, but not so long we're tempted to sin. Emma's cheeks flushed prettily. Next week, then. They married the following Saturday in the small Cedar Ridge church. The morning dawned clear and bright, spring finally beginning to show itself after the long winter. Emma woke early, her stomach fluttering with nerves and excitement. She'd spent the previous evening with Sarah Chen, who'd helped her prepare her dress and hair. You're beautiful, Sarah had said, stepping back to admire her work. Emma had looked at herself in the small mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Her auburn hair was pulled up softly, with gentle curls framing her face. The blue dress Sarah had helped her alter fit perfectly, emphasizing her curves rather than hiding them. Do you think Cole will like it? Emma had asked. Sarah had laughed. That man would think you beautiful in a flour sack. Now, as Emma dressed Hope in a tiny white gown Sarah had made, her hands shook slightly. In a few hours, she would be Cole's wife, would share his name, his home, his bed. The thought made heat pool low in her belly. She'd been with a man before, of course, but that had been fumbling and furtive and ultimately painful. She had a feeling it would be different with Cole. Everything was different with Cole. Marshal Brennan arrived to escort her to the church, his wife accompanying him to help with Hope. You ready for this? Brennan asked kindly. More ready than I've ever been for anything, Emma replied. The church was small and simple, decorated with wildflowers that some of the school children had picked that morning. Emma's heart swelled at the gesture. She might not have much family here, but she had community. And then she saw Cole standing at the altar, and everything else faded away. He wore a black suit she'd never seen before, his dark hair freshly cut, beard neatly trimmed. But it was the look in his eyes that took her breath away. Wonder, love, possession, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. Emma walked down the aisle, Hope in her arms, her eyes never leaving Cole's face. Who gives this woman? The preacher asked. She gives herself, Emma said firmly, before anyone else could speak. And the child she carries with her, the preacher smiled. That's a fine answer. Cole Dawson, do you take this woman and this child as your own? I do, Cole said, his voice strong and clear. With all my heart. Emma Hayes, do you take this man as your husband, to love and to honor all the days of your life? I do, Emma whispered. Then by the power vested in me by Montana territory, I now pronounce you man and wife. The preacher grinned. You may kiss your bride, Cole, and knowing you two, you will. Cole did thoroughly, not caring who was watching. His hand cupped the back of her head, and Emma melted into him, Hope safe between them. When they finally broke apart, the small congregation erupted in applause. Emma looked around, surprised to see more people than she'd expected. Some of her students, several ranch families, even Mrs. Henderson from the Mercantile, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. After the ceremony, There was a small celebration at the church. Someone had brought cake. Another had contributed punch. The children ran around playing while the adults congratulated the newlyweds. "You done good, Dawson," Jack Morrison said, clapping Cole on the back. "She's a fine woman." "I know," Cole said, his eyes finding Emma across the room. She was showing hope to one of the ranch wives, laughing at something the woman said. "I'm the luckiest man alive." As the sun began to set, Cole and Emma said their goodbyes and loaded Hope into the wagon Cole had brought. It was a 2-hour ride to the ranch, and Emma felt her nerves returning. "You all right?" Cole asked as they left town. "Just nervous," Emma admitted. "About what?" "About everything, about being a good wife, about whether I'll fit in at the ranch, about tonight." Cole pulled the wagon to a stop and turned to face her. "Emma, you don't have to be nervous. Not about any of it, but especially not about tonight. I've only been with one man before, and it wasn't pleasant." Cole's jaw tightened. "Was it the same bastard who got you with child?" Emma nodded. "Then forget everything he taught you," Cole said firmly. "Being with me will be nothing like that, I promise you." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I love you. And when a man loves a woman the way I love you, he takes his time. Makes sure she's ready. Makes sure she wants it as much as he does." His hand found hers. "And if you're not ready tonight or tomorrow or next week, that's fine too. I'll wait as long as you need." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "I do want it. Want you. I'm just scared of disappointing you." "That's not possible." Cole leaned in and kissed her softly. "Now, shall we continue to your new home?" The ranch appeared as they crested a hill just as the last light was fading from the sky. It was bigger than Emma had imagined, sprawling across a valley with mountains rising behind it. The house itself was substantial, 2 stories of solid timber. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed. "It's ours now," Cole corrected. "Yours and mine. And Hope's." He helped her down from the wagon and carried Hope inside. The moment Emma stepped through the door, she gasped. The interior had been completely transformed from the sparse bachelor quarters Cole had described. There were curtains on the windows, rugs on the floors. In the main room, a fire already crackled in the fireplace. Fresh flowers sat on the table, and in the corner, a beautiful wooden cradle. "Cole, when did you do all this?" "Last few days," he admitted. "Had some help from Jack's wife. Wanted you to feel at home here." Emma turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "It's perfect. You're perfect." "I'm not perfect, Emma. Not even close. But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make you happy." Hope started to fuss, reminding them of her presence. Emma laughed and took the baby from Cole. "Someone needs to eat and then sleep," Emma said. "There's a room upstairs I set up for her," Cole said. "Let me show you." The nursery was simple but sweet, with a small bed and the cradle. Emma nursed Hope in the rocking chair by the window, looking out at the starlit valley. Cole leaned against the doorframe, watching them. His wife, his daughter, his family. After Hope was asleep, Cole showed Emma to the master bedroom. It was large, dominated by a huge bed piled with quilts. "I'll give you some privacy," Cole said, starting to leave. "Don't go," Emma said quickly. "I mean, this is your room too now. Our room." Cole turned back, his eyes dark with want. "Emma, are you sure?" "I'm sure." She took a deep breath. "I'm your wife now, Cole, and I want to be your wife in every way." He crossed to her slowly, giving her time to change her mind. When he reached her, he cupped her face gently. "Tell me if I do anything you don't like," he said. "Promise me." "I promise." Cole kissed her then, soft at first, then deeper. His hands moved to the buttons at the back of her dress, fumbling slightly. "I'm not good at this," he admitted. "Been a long time." "We'll figure it out together," Emma said. And they did. Slowly, carefully, they undressed each other. Cole's hands were gentle as they explored her body, murmuring about how beautiful she was, how perfect. When Emma tensed, remembering painful past experiences, he stopped immediately. "We don't have to." "I want to," Emma insisted. "I just need—" "Can you go slowly?" "As slow as you need, sweetheart. We've got all night, got the rest of our lives." And he kept his word, taking his time, making sure she was ready, making sure she wanted every touch, every kiss. When they finally came together, Emma gasped, not in pain, but in pleasure. "All right?" Cole asked, his voice strained with the effort of holding back. "Yes," Emma breathed. "Oh, yes. Don't stop." Afterwards, they lay tangled together, Emma's head on Cole's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. That was, Emma couldn't find the words, different than before, Cole asked. Different than I knew it could be. She propped herself up to look at him. Thank you. For what? For being patient. For being gentle. For loving me. Cole pulled her back down against him. Always, Emma. Always. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, while outside the wind whispered through the pines and the stars wheeled overhead. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through the window and Hope's cries from the nursery. For a moment she was disoriented. Then memory flooded back. She was married. This was her home now. Cole's side of the bed was empty but still warm. Emma quickly dressed and went to tend to Hope. She found Cole already in the nursery, awkwardly trying to change the baby's diaper. "I thought I'd let you sleep," he said, "but I'm not very good at this part." Emma laughed and gently took over. "It takes practice." "We've got time for me to practice," Cole said, watching her with a soft expression. After Hope was changed and fed, they went downstairs together. Cole had already made coffee and started breakfast. "I should be doing this," Emma protested. "I'm your wife." "You're my wife, not my servant," Cole corrected. "We're partners in this, Emma. We both work. We both take care of each other and hope." It was such a different philosophy from what Emma had been raised with, where women served and men commanded. But she liked it, liked feeling like an equal rather than a subordinate. Over breakfast, Cole outlined his plans for the day. "I need to check on the cattle in the north pasture. Should only take a few hours. Will you be all right here alone?" "I'll be fine," Emma assured him. "I thought I'd start organizing the house, maybe do some cooking." "You don't have to do everything at once." "I want to. I want this to feel like home." Cole reached across the table and took her hand. "It already does." The weeks that followed settled into a comfortable rhythm. Cole would rise early to tend to the ranch, while Emma cared for Hope and managed the household. 3 days a week, Cole would drive Emma into town so she could teach, bringing her back home in the evening. The ranch hands quickly came to adore both Emma and Hope. Jack Morrison's wife, Martha, became a close friend, teaching Emma about ranch life and helping her adjust. "He's a different man since you came," Martha told Emma one afternoon while they canned vegetables together. "Used to be so closed off, so alone. Now he actually smiles." "I think we saved each other," Emma said, watching through the window as Cole played with Hope in the yard. The baby was 6 months old now, sitting up on her own, laughing as Cole made faces at her. "That little one is blessed," Martha said. "Two parents who love her so much even though she's not blood." "She is blood," Emma said firmly. "Maybe not by birth, but by choice. And that's even stronger." That night, after Hope was asleep, Emma had something to tell Cole. They sat together on the porch, her tucked against his side, as had become their habit. "Cole, I need to tell you something." He tensed slightly. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air for a moment. Then Cole was pulling her around to face him, his eyes wide. "What? Are you sure?" "I'm sure. About 10 weeks along. I didn't want to say anything until I was certain," but she placed his hand on her still flat stomach. "There's a baby growing in here. Our baby." Cole's eyes filled with tears. "Emma, I don't know what to say." "Are you happy?" "Happy? I'm terrified and thrilled and grateful all at once." He pulled her close. "But mostly, I'm just in awe of you." "I'm scared too," Emma admitted. "After what happened before, this time will be different," Cole said firmly. "You're healthy. You're happy, you're safe, and I'll be right here with you every step of the way. Promise, promise." The months passed and Emma's belly grew round. Hope, approaching her first birthday, became fascinated with her mother's changing shape. "Baby," Emma would tell her, pointing to her stomach, and Hope would pat it gently, understanding in her own way that something important was happening. Cole was attentive to the point of being overprotective. He wouldn't let Emma lift anything heavy, insisted she rest frequently, hovered anxiously whenever she felt the slightest twinge. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," Emma finally told him one evening. "I know, I can't lose you. Can't lose this baby." Emma understood. The fear of loss lived in both of them, a shadow that might never fully leave, but they were learning to live with it, to choose hope over fear. Their son was born on a cold November morning, 7 months after their wedding. The birth was long and difficult, and there were moments when Cole thought his heart might stop from fear. But Emma was strong, and when their son finally entered the world, squalling and perfect, they both wept with relief and joy. "He's beautiful," Emma breathed, cradling the baby against her chest. "He looks like you," Cole said, touching the baby's tiny hand with one finger. "He has your eyes." They named him Robert James Dawson. Robert for Hope's father, who'd loved his daughter enough to carve her a rattle. James for Cole's father, who'd taught him about honor and hard work. Hope, now walking and babbling, was fascinated by her baby brother. She'd stand by Emma's chair while she nursed, patting Robert's head gently and saying, "Baby, baby," over and over. "You're such a good big sister," Emma would tell her, and Hope would beam with pride. This was redemption, he realized. This second chance at love, at fatherhood, at life. Years later, when Hope asked about her story, how she came to be their daughter, Cole told her the truth. About the night he'd found her crying in the snow, about bringing her to Emma, about how they'd all saved each other. "So you chose me?" Hope asked, her eyes wide. "We chose you," Emma confirmed. "And we'd choose you 1,000 times over." Hope hugged them both fiercely. "I'm glad you found me, Papa. I'm glad you brought me home." Me too, sweetheart," Cole said, his voice rough with emotion. "Me too." As the sun set over the Montana plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Cole Dawson stood on his porch with his wife's hand in his and his children's laughter ringing through the house. He'd been broken once, lost everything that mattered, but sometimes he'd learned the pieces of a shattered life could be put back together into something even more beautiful than what came before. Sometimes a baby's cry in the wilderness led not to tragedy, but to hope, to love, to home. And that, Cole thought as Emma squeezed his hand and smiled up at him with those beautiful green eyes, was the greatest miracle of all.